Hello my sweets, it's Keisha and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, thank you so much for joining me and I hope you consider subscribing. Today's video is an open invite collaboration co-hosted by Carrie from Mama Dares to DIY, Sukaina from Terrarium and Crafts, and myself, Keisha from Sweet Urban Rose. We've challenged all of our YouTube creator friends to make something out of a jar or bottle. Sounds pretty simple, but you'll be amazed at all the things we came up with. So when you're done watching my video, head down to the description box and check out the playlist. I'll be showing you how I turn these 2 bottles and 1 jar into beautiful faux, wood, and cement vases. Alright, let's get started. For this DIY, I'm going to be using this bottle from Dollar Tree, this jar that held maraschino cherries, and this Snapple bottle. Now, this is a hard plastic. I know in the past that they did glass. I'm not sure when the switch happened, but they are doing hard plastic now. But the good news is they still have the real facts in the lid. So to begin, I'll be using this air dry modeling clay. And I have a chunk here that I pulled out already to start getting warmed up. I would like to cover it over this top mouth area here to make it not look like a bottle that you drink out of. So I'm going to mold this clay around the mouth of this bottle and hopefully come up with something that looks pretty seamless. Okay, I'm pretty satisfied with the way this is looking so far. So I'm gonna set it to the side and let it start setting up. So I went ahead and did both of these jars off camera because I didn't think that you needed to see me mold the clay any further. But I did try to get them all to the same level. They're not exact, but it's not gonna be perfect. So next what I'm gonna do while this is still damp is take this tool here and just kind of poke some holes randomly around just to give it some little imperfections, and then also maybe a couple little drag lines. So at this point I've just got to wait and let them dry. The glass ones I could potentially put in the oven. I believe it's 200 degrees, don't quote me on that. I'll have to check to dry these out faster. Unfortunately, this one's plastic, so I will have to wait the entire wait time. And that's about 24 hours depending on the thickness. So once they're dry, I'll be back. Okay, it's the next day and all of these have had a chance to dry. So at this point, what I'm going to do is give them a light sanding in preparation for the next step. Okay, they've all been sanded. So the next thing that I'm going to do to this one here is use some of this lightweight spackling and smooth out some of the texture that's on this jar. I like the texture, it's just it's not gonna work for me for this project. So I'm gonna go ahead and smooth some of that over, and then once I'm done with that, I'm gonna set that aside to dry, and then we're gonna go to these here. Now while that other piece is drying, I'm going to come in with this Waverly chalk paint Hazelnut and give just these top areas a coat. So the spackling has had a chance to dry on this one here. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and give it a sand to knock down these rough edges. And then I'm gonna turn around and paint it with this hazelnut color here as well. Okay, next I'm going to come in with this Waverly wax, and it's in the antique color, and I'm going to do a dry brush technique, over the entire thing. But before I do that, I'm going to come into some of these areas here where I did the poke holes, and I did some actually off camera. I used this cuticle pusher and I stuck it down into the clay to make it kind of look like knot holes. And so I'm gonna go into those so that they're a deeper color first. And I do have a wipe on standby if I do need to spread out some of this color a little bit or to take some back off. I'd rather do it in layers than to do it in one thick layer and then it doesn't look that great. So that's what the next step is that I'm going to be doing here. And I will end up doing that on all 3 bottles. Okay, so all of the little holes and imperfections, some of these are actually cracks from when the clay was drying that I went ahead and just filled in also. But now what I'm going to do is take this chip brush and start doing the dry brushing technique to see if I can't get some what looks like wood graining in here. So you're going to dip your brush inside the color and then get off a lot of that color, because we want to build the color up. We don't want to necessarily just start off gung-ho. It's easier to add than to remove. So we're just gonna go ahead and do the dry brush, some place heavier than others, and just take it around and keep going until you're satisfied with the way, or I'll keep going until I'm satisfied with the way that it looks. Next, I'm going to come in with the Waverly chalk paint in the color Mineral, and I'll be doing a dry brush over the wooded area that I did here earlier. And then you just want to come in with your wipe and give it a little blend here. You don't want these lines to be so distinct. The jars have completely dried, and you want to make sure that they are completely dry before you move on to the next step. So what I have here is a mixture of lightweight spackle and Waverly chalk paint in Elephant and in Mineral. Now this mixture is about 3/4 of the spackle to about 1/4 of a mixture of both of these, and I'm trying to achieve cement, and I did find this recipe on Pinterest, and I'll have it linked below if you'd like to take a look. In the person's recipe, they actually used primer paint. Unfortunately I don't have that, so this was the next best thing. So you just mix those together thoroughly, and then we're gonna paint it on our bottles. So before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and do this one with painter's tape. I have already taped off the other ones, but since we have mainly been focusing on this one, I decided to wait and do that for you here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the tape on here and then apply our cement. Okay, so I also have this ring here to help me balance so that I can get the strokes evenly straight down. So I'm gonna get a paintbrush and I will begin. It's the next day and this is completely dried. I do have a couple of things to tell you about the process of doing this light spackling. After I did the first layer, I realized that I needed to pull the tape before this actually fully dried. So I pulled the tape and let it dry for a couple of hours, and when I came back around to when I looked on the inside, I could see some light shining through on the sides. So what I did was I mixed more, ran some more tape, and did a second layer on this. And again, removed the tape pretty much immediately so that it wasn't going to be stuck underneath the spackling. And that was just to fill in the holes and things. Now, this does have a lot of texture to it, which, how do I say, which, you know, if you like that, you like it, you know. I don't mind it per se, but it wasn't necessarily the vision that I had. So I will be sanding this down, starting with the coarser side of the sanding sponge, and then I will move over to the finer side of the sanding sponge. Also, I did mix a little bit of touch-up paint because I am noticing there are some areas that may need to be touched up. I don't necessarily want to mix another batch of the spackling, so I just mixed some. I have pre-mixed some of the elephant and the mineral chalk paint together to kind of color match this. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get this sanded down, and then we'll do any touch-ups that may be necessary. All right, and so you can see it's a lot smoother. It still does have some texture to it, but I like it much better like this. So again, this is the mixture of the mineral paint with a little bit of the elephant in there to kind of match the spackling mixture. And I'm just going to take this little paintbrush here and go over any areas that may show up when this is on display. So I'm just painting this little area here. Now, if you do end up with bigger holes, like I had before I did the second layer, I would say, which is why I did the second layer, but I would say to go ahead and mix more of the spackling paint mixture. This has had an opportunity to dry, and it's a little bit darker than the original color. And I couldn't figure out why at first, and then I realized that the spackle is white. So either you could try, if you have the holes, and just do like a little tester. You can just do mineral by itself and not mix the elephant in to make it darker, or you can lighten it. For the next step, what I did, because originally I was just going to do the mineral color watered down, and when I was realizing that this was so dark compared, I mixed it, the mineral Waverly chalk paint, with a little bit of this silver lining, which is a lighter silver color here. So at this point, I am going to go ahead and sponge this on here, just because concrete does have color variation, not this stark. So I'm going to go ahead and start sponging that on to try to lighten it up a little bit, just because it is sort of visible when it's sitting on the table or on the surface. You can kind of see the color there. So I'm just trying to correct that color a little bit, but also to add it all the way around on the piece, just to give it some subtle color variation. And do remember that with this, it is going to come on a little bit sheerer than it normally would, because I did water it down. So you can layer this on if it's not showing up against the darker color. Also, to not waste the little bit that I did mix, I went ahead and I went ahead and painted the full bottoms of them, just to give it a finished look and also not to waste paint. So I'm just gonna go around and give this some, I did cut off some of the rough edges of the sponge here, just so it doesn't have the harsh lines. But I'm also going to, when I'm dabbing it, just kind of go around so it doesn't have any harsh lines. And I'm just going to do this in little random spots. So you can see here on this one, I had already started to sponge this on. So when I came back, you can see it showing up just a little bit more. You can see the difference in between here and here. Oh, let's turn it like this. In between here and here. So you can see the slight, just subtleness of the color there. So here's the three of them. So this one here for me is going to take one more layer of the watered down mineral and silver lining color, and then the last step for me is to go ahead and seal them, and I'll be using the Aleene's, I don't have it near me, I apologize. When I come back, I'll make sure to show you what I sealed it with, but I am going to seal them. From what I read on the link that I'm going to leave below where I got the information for the faux cement, she said it's not necessary to seal them, from what I'm understanding that I read, but I'm going to anyway. So I'll be back after I get these sealed. I've gone ahead and sealed the vases, and this is the sealer that I used. It's the Aleene's acrylic sealer, and it's in a matte finish. And so I just wanted to make sure that I shared that with you. Also, in the process of things, I completely and totally forgot to share with you that when I had started initially doing the painting on of the spackling, I was using a paintbrush. I quickly found that it actually needed to be put on with a spatula. So I used one of these. It does come in a set of 3 from Dollar Tree. This is what it looks like. And it's usually where I see it is with like the office paper supplies. For some reason, I'm not sure why that they're there, but that's where they are. So that's usually where I find this 3-piece spatula set. So this is what they look like sealed, and I think they're absolutely stunning myself. I love the way that they came out. I love the texture of them. I am leaning towards, and I would like your opinions on this. You could let me know in the comments below. This is supposed to be a matte finish, and it does have a little shine to it, and I almost feel like I want to put like the glossy Mod Podge on it to see if I can bring out more of a shine, but I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. So next up, I'm going to show you what they look like styled. So I'll be back soon. Thank you to everyone who participated in this open invite collaboration. I invite you all to check out the playlist linked in the description box below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and leave me a comment below. If you'd like to see more, subscribe and choose all notifications so you don't miss my next video. And remember, love, inspire, create. See you next time.